Hi guys, Amy here with Amy's Wares, and today's video is all about coloring with your alcohol markers. So if you enjoy coloring videos, then this one is for you. I was actually asked recently to make a video about Copic Coloring. I don't usually make videos including that because I'm usually doing this in front of my TV with my family. I'll stamp out a bunch of images at once and even have some stamped and ready to go in a little package that I keep by my Copic markers, and when the mood strikes me, I'll sit there and color while we're watching a movie or something. So that's why you don't usually see it in my videos, but since somebody asked, I'm happy to accommodate, and that's what this video is about today. So as you can see, I have a bunch of little cutie patootie stamp sets from Lawn Fawn. I have not actually used them yet, so I'm excited to use them today. And I've got them nestled pretty close together. The reason being I don't actually have the coordinating dies, and I'm going to have to fussy cut them out so they can be really close together like this. This is a half sheet of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110 pound cardstock. I cut that sheet in half, and as you can see, I'm going to be able to stamp all of these images twice on that one sheet of paper. So not much waste here. I'm able to cram a lot of these critters into this one half sheet. So I flip it over in my Misty and stamp it some more. I'm using Gina K amalgam ink because this is a Copic friendly ink, so it won't bleed when mixed with the alcohol markers. And of course the beautiful Misty, I can stamp it as many times as I need to get that perfect impression. Cleaning up with my stamp chamois and housing it in my lovely chamois case from Make It by Marco. Here I'm showing you my hex chart. This is from Sandy Allnock. I'll link that in the video description as well. That's a must-have for Copic coloring in my opinion. It really helps you figure out which colors are going to blend well together. And this is my carrying case. This is just what works for me. Again, because I'm usually doing it in front of the TV, so I'll just kind of grab that whole package and bring it with me to the couch and start coloring. And these are the only markers that I use today. So as you can see, it's really not that many. And as I implied, the lazy crafter, part of that means not using many colors. So if you don't have a lot of colors or you're not sure what colors to collect, then this methodology might work for you. In my case, I am building up kind of a decent collection, but a lot of times I'm just too lazy and don't want to switch between 5 different colors for one little section of a critter. So I know some people do, and it looks absolutely gorgeous, and they're much better at coloring than me, but I just don't have the patience for it personally, and I batch and create so many cards that I just really can't justify spending that much time coloring one little critter. So that's kind of what I mean with the lazy crafting, is partially that I try and use, you know, maybe not so many colors, and I also tend to move pretty quickly. So for these little hedgies, I'm actually coloring in real time so you can get a feel for how quick I actually color. In the other critters in the video, I'll actually speed it up, so you know, we're not here for a year, but this will at least give you an idea of how long it actually takes me to color. And I typically start from the lightest color and work my way to the darkest color. Again, it's usually 2, maybe 3 colors per blend. And sometimes I will start from dark to light, but typically I prefer light to dark. I'll just drop the lightest color in a wash all over that section, and then it kind of wets the paper down and kind of gets it ready to blend, which is what works best for me. So I'm starting off with that lighter color and then just dropping in the darker color where I think the shadows might be. I'm honestly not overthinking it. Don't worry about light sources. Don't worry about messing up. Just play. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So here I'm just kind of a little bit of back and forth with the lighter color and the darker color before I move on to the the warmer red browns that I use for the top part of the hedgies. So for that blend, you'll see I have 3 colors, and I'll have all the colors that I use listed in the video description for you. But honestly, same kind of thing here. I'm just kind of messily going through and dropping the lightest color to wet the paper, and then moving to the middle color, just kind of dropping it where I think it should go. Not really doing a flicking motion per se. I'm just kind of scribbling in the color, trying to do it quickly. And you know, sometimes I do go outside the lines, and you know, that's par for the course. It happens, but that's where the little blending marker comes in handy. So we're just gonna go to the middle color here. Still got my chisel nib on the other end here. Just drop in kind of behind the ear and on the back of the hedgie. I'm really not overthinking it, I'm just dropping it in. See there, I went outside the line, but honestly I'm not too worried about it. So the darker color, the darker I tend to go a little bit more sparing. I do like the contrast between the darkest color and the lightest color. I like it to be, you know, a decent amount of contrast, but I don't tend to go too crazy with the darkest color just because I don't want it to overtake the image in the blend. I tend to like more of the lightest color to show than the darkest color. Again, that's total preference, but I'm just kind of, again, scribbling in the middle color to kind of pull out a little bit of the dark. And then once I'm done with this on all 4 hedgies, I'll go in with the latest color again and kind of blend it all together. So as you can still see my brush strokes, I guess, which some people I think try and avoid with coloring, which looks beautiful too, but honestly I like this, and it's kind of more my style. I like it to look a little more messy, a little more graphic maybe. So it's deliberate, and it works with my quick lazy crafter mentality, so maybe it'll work for you too. But just don't overthink it. Don't be intimidated. It's just markers, it's just paper. There's a bit of a learning curve, but I promise you can do it. So that's all we're working on here, is these little hedgy tops. Are these called spikes? I don't even know what you call those. But I didn't even end up using that E44. I didn't think it needed it. But when it dried back, it didn't have quite enough contrast for me, so I did go back in with that middle color just to drop a little bit extra in on the back legs and under where I think the shadow would be, behind the ear and things like that. So again, not too complicated. I like the texture that the brush strokes leave behind, so personal preference. But there you have it. And then it's here that I decide the little hedgies, especially the ones with the little eyelashes, need some blush cheeks. So I decide on the R20. It's a nice peachy pink. It's not too pink, but you'll find with the lighter Copic markers, or at least in my experience, I'm assuming this is the case, the lighter markers are going to have more alcohol to pigment ratio. So they kind of push away the other color, which is also what the blending tool is. So the blending tool is essentially all alcohol, and that's what will allow you to use it as an eraser of sorts. So the name is a bit misleading because a blending marker would imply that it helps you blend colors together, when in reality, if you've tried to do that, you've probably gotten pretty frustrated because it doesn't blend, it more so erases. So don't think of it as a blending marker, think of it more as an eraser. Because if you come outside the lines, like I do with my crazy coloring, then you can really use it to erase the color outside the lines. You kind of push it back in, and you can do it in steps. So once it dries, then you can come back in and do it again. And it works surprisingly well, with the exception of bright reds. Reds will just turn to pink and it's a hot mess express. But I would still recommend trying that to get some of the pigment out, and then if you need to, you can use a Sakura white gel pen or something like that to really kind of fix your mistake. So that's a little tip there for you. Here you can see I'm using the full set of cool grays. I don't actually use all of the colors, but I do use them to color a lot of the critters and objects here today. I tend to skip in between colors, like maybe use 3, 5, and 7, or 5, 7, and 9. Now, graduation caps obviously are typically black, but you don't ever want to use a true black. In fact, my black Copic marker virtually sits untouched. As in nature, black is never usually true black. It's usually picking up different reflections or colors around it, so you kind of want to think about that too when you're coloring. So as you can see, I started with quite a light gray. I think that was number 5. I think I did 5, 7, and 9 for these. But use that light gray to put the wash of color down and wet your paper, but then just kind of build darker grays around it, and then it gives you that nice natural dimension and highlight through the coloring process. And I'm not actually using any true black at all, but it clearly ends up looking like a black graduation cap. So it's just a little tip there. I also did switch out the chisel nibs on all of my gray ones. I am kind of working through my Copics just because I never use the chisel nib. And the fine tip nib really does allow you to get in those tight spots like I'm using here. And I learned that tip from Kathy Zilski and her amazing videos. Be sure to check her out if you don't follow her already. But I do have my grays, and I am going to eventually switch out all the chisel nib on my other ones just because it is nice to have that little fine tip option. So on these little diplomas, I love things that are white, that are easy to color, because you can use either a light gray or a very, very light blue, just to kind of add some shadow and dimension and not really even have to spend much time coloring. So it's kind of hard to see in the video, but those little diplomas in person do definitely have some dimension, and you saw how quick it was. You just drop a little line of very light gray and then it gives it some shadowing, and that's all there is to it. So again, I'm using the cool grays again. You could also use warm grays for the elephant, but I'm trying to show you that you can do a lot with not very many colors. So just again, starting light to dark, putting down a wash of the light gray to saturate the paper, and then working to the medium and then the darker. And you can really see the line strokes in here. Again, that might drive some people crazy. But it's my style, and it works for me, so I hope it works for you too. But just kind of do a little bit more back and forth with this to blend it out a little bit, but there's not much to it. And I do come back for the little, what I assume is the female, and do a little cheek blush with that one as well. Just dropping in shadow where I think it might be. I did skip the other elephants just because, you know, you've already seen how I've done it. So moving on. Now the red I wanted to show you, you can see I'm just barely using the tip of the marker, and the reds bleed for some reason more than other ones, and they're the hardest to clean up too if you go outside the line. So don't go right up to the line, just kind of test it out and see if it doesn't bleed all the way up to the black line for you naturally. So it's a little tip there with the red. Now these axolotl, so cute. They're also called the Mexican walking fish, I believe, but I was very quickly corrected by my daughter because it's not actually a fish. They're more considered a salamander, I guess, but I don't know. They're just adorable. And the puns in these stamp sets, killing me with these dad jokes. They are so cute. But again, same kind of idea here. They're kind of translucent white in real life. Usually when I need to figure out how to color something, I'll actually Google the critter that I need to color, but I'll also say like axolotl cartoon or something like that, because then that way I can get a better idea of coloring, I guess, rather than just doing axolotl in nature. You know, that's an option too, but I like to add the little cartoon into the Google search, and then it usually makes coloring easier. But anyway, they're kind of like a translucent creamish white color on their body, so I just dropped in some of that light gray just to give some dimension, but it really didn't take much coloring at all. And then I just used those rosy pink colors on its ears. I don't know what that is, but I don't know. It's adorable. So I colored in both of those. I think I went outside the line on one of them, so I don't think you could see it, but I had to use the blending marker to kind of fix my mistake. Now this little wheel at Stamp Set, I don't know if you saw it, but it said, "I wheelie like you." Ugh, hilarious. Puns will get me every time. But anyway, I think I'm going to have to see if I can throw a little circle die in the middle of that. See if that'll work to cut it out, because I don't know how I'll fussy cut out the center. It'll be kind of a mess. But here, the green, those little leaves are so small I could barely blend if I wanted to. So you could probably easily just use one color on that. Now on the cookies, you're really going to see how messy and lazy my coloring is here. I'm literally just scribbling in the color, but I don't even care because it's a cookie. Come on, they're not smooth. So it's just giving it some natural dimension. See? Scribbles. But the cookies end up being one of my favorite because I think that ended up looking really good. I don't know. So just a little bit of blending back and forth. Legit scribbling though. Like, you really don't have to overthink it. Just drop in the color, you're good to go. But I had to add these faces because they're adorbs. I mean, come on. I used one on the one cookie and the other face on the other cookie. And I was thinking these would be so cute to make little lunchbox notes for my daughter. She did spend all of last year doing school virtually, so all of 5th grade she spent at home, but for 6th grade she's going to be going back in person, and I think I need to make some little lunchbox notes for her, so maybe I will do that with these. So let me know in the comments if you would like me to make a video with the creation of cards or maybe even little lunchbox notes with these for my daughter. So let me know in the comments if you want to see, you know, just a blog post with some finished cards, or if you want a video with lunchbox notes, or if you want a video with cards using these. So I'd be curious if you're interested in that. But I will definitely turn them into something because all these little stamps are just too cute. So here I'm using a Sakura gel pen. This is a size 8. I tend to prefer the thicker ones just because I think they work better, even though this one was not cooperating the best. Sometimes I'll do a line in little dots too. Axolotls are kind of slippery looking, you know. They are sea creatures, so. But cookies maybe not so much, so I tend to go a little overboard and make things look slick that maybe shouldn't be, but I like highlights. Hey, what can you do, right? So just gonna kind of drop in highlights. There are thinner, like size 5 ones, and I think a 10. So this 8 one is kind of right in the middle. The 5 ones I like, but I feel like they don't write quite as well. So if you're gonna get one, I would maybe stick to an 8 or a 10, just to kind of make your line thickness a little bit thicker so it stands out a little bit more. And these do work great with Copic coloring. If you do anything with watercolor or watercolor markers, they don't tend to work quite as well on top of them. So just be forewarned there. If you try and do highlights over anything watercolored, it might not cooperate for you. So on these little critters, I feel like their nose might be a little reflective, so I drop a little dot on there. Just kind of work through the page. I again, all of this works to my batching mentality, because now, you know, when all's said and done, I'm going to have a whole page of little critters ready to go for future projects. So I can either cut them out and store them in my little storage notebook of all my critters, or use them right away. So those are my fussy cutting scissors. I'll link all the products in the video description if you expand the video details below. Now this is an optional step. I like VersaFine. I think it's a darker, richer black than amalgam, but you can't use it for Copic coloring. So I did leave all my stamps in my MISTI, knowing that I would end up doing this. I don't usually do it, but I thought I had to do it today. So this just kind of gives you that rich, dark black line. Again, totally optional. So that's it. That's my messy Copic coloring for the lazy crafter. I hope you enjoyed my video today. If you did, please hit like and subscribe. I have some more card inspiration for you below, and have a great day. Thanks.